I was going through a notebook seeing if I could get rid of it when I found my 2021 goals, one of which included climb the first V7. I realized I still had time. I did the math. I had 7 weeks to climb my first V7 by the end of the year. There were two things though that I was worried about. One, being consistent and motivated enough to keep with it. And then two, I realized that I wasn't gonna be able to do this on my own. Motivation typically comes from one of two things, either excitement or fear. So when you're a kid, this might be getting a piece of candy. If you do X, Y, and Z, then you get to go on that trip. And so that trip is what you keep in your mind to motivate you to keep going even on the hard days. I thought this would be ideal. If I get this V7 by the end of the year, then I could go on that skydive trip. The problem was, I kind of wanted to do those things whether or not I did the V7. Maybe not this month or next month, but maybe in a couple years, I'd go skydiving. I turned to the fear-based motivation. What consequences could I put in place that if I do not climb this V7 would happen? So one of my friends has been doing polar plunges up American Fork Canyon. And if you're not familiar with a polar plunge, essentially you're jumping into a lake of some sort where the water is freezing cold. So usually there's ice on top of this. And like a polar bear, you jump into the water. I think that is probably the worst thing I could do. This is what I should do for my consequence. If I don't climb a V7 by December 31st, 2021, then I have to jump into a frozen lake. And that's where this journey began. I reached out to Coach Tosh. If you saw my moonboard video, then you've already met her. Do you think that's possible?
I think it is possible if we find the right 7 and you can project the same one. I think we can do it.
And if I don't do this, I have to jump into the AF reservoir. And then I called my mom. I'm like, okay, if I don't get this V7, then I have to do this polar plunge. And I told my brother, and I told my friends, and I told everyone that I thought would actually care. It was set in stone. There was no backing down now. Unfortunately, this was the same weekend that the USA competitions were at my gym. So half of the gym was blocked off for competition routes. Because of that, I was really limited on what climbs I could do. So I actually tried every single V7 in the gym. If I didn't feel like it was good, usually I only tried it once, but if I thought it might be promising, then I tried it a couple of times. There were a couple of routes that had these huge, beautiful holds, and I knew if I did that, it would be so good for YouTube, but me and big, beautiful holds, aka slopers, don't go well together. And if I wanted to be successful and avoid that stupid polar plunge, then I was going to have to avoid big slopers. That narrowed it down to mostly crimpy climbs, and there were two routes. One, I couldn't get the start move. And then I tried the second move and the third move, and all of them were super challenging. The other route though, I could not only do the first couple of moves, I could do the first 3 moves within 2 tries. And that to me was a golden ticket. And the route had 14 moves, which was actually kind of long. I did the math, and I did 1 or 2 moves per week. I would be able to get the route done before the end of the year. So the math showed that seemed really promising. It's all crimpy. The holds are all horrible. Most of them had 1 pad or less on them. Each individual move didn't seem that crazy. It seemed more like a grip strength kind of move, except for 2 moves. You had to move your body from a completely horizontal position where if you fell without dropping your legs first, you would fall flat on your back. And that was going to be the hardest part of the route. Once you got that move, there were a couple of other awkward positions that you needed to be in. You needed pretty decent flexibility or long legs like me to get to the last hold. Tosh and I got together and she evaluated my climbing. I had really good grip strength compared to what I had a year prior. So even though it may not be enough for my V7 route, it was a lot better than it used to be. So a little pat on the back there. Same thing with pull-ups. I was barely being able to do 2 pull-ups, and now I was doing weighted pull-ups. With my endurance, I could make quite a few moves on a lattice board, but I wasn't able to stay on the wall very long. I think the hardest that I went was like less than 2 minutes.
You're about to send your V7. Come on, fight for it. 38, 39. Come on, get to 40. Come on, Sarah. Good job, though. All right.
So not ideal, but since we were bouldering, I thought, you know what, my endurance probably won't be an issue. And then when it came to my flexibility, I had average flexibility. My hamstrings are a little tight, but when it comes to my ankle flexors and my hip flexor, I was actually pretty decent. Because I had a decent baseline on everything, 2 times a week we had projecting days, which meant I had a really decent warm up, and then I would project for the rest of the session. These kind of sessions, because I was just trying so hard and going so hard, were usually about an hour to an hour and a half long. After that, my hands were too weak to keep going. And then 1 time a week, training days, technique training, drills, that kind of thing. And this would be something to supplement my climb. So I wouldn't touch my project. And then once a week, I'd climb with a group of girls in bouldering club at a completely different gym where we would project on random things together. And then we'd do a core and arm workout afterwards. In addition to all of this climbing, I was also trying to fit in core workouts because my core tension is a little weak compared to the rest of my strength right now. So I found a really easy exercise that I could do at home or at the gym. But I needed 1 solid rest day where I wasn't exercising, no core workouts, no running or anything like that. This seemed like the perfect plan. All I had to do was stick to this training plan. By the end of these 7 weeks, I would have climbed my first V7. First week of training, I get on the route, and not only do I get the first 3 moves down, I get the first 5 moves down. More than a third of the route complete. I am stoked and super excited. My hands are feeling good. I'm feeling strong. Some movements seem challenging, but everything seems to work out within a few tries.
I figured I'd share with you what I'm actually bringing. This should help prevent my pump. And then I don't know if you guys saw my video about recovery, but I did these like bands on your wrists and they have little ice packs. Anything can help, right? So energy drink, I might be bringing more than one of these. Applesauce, fish, energy bar.
Rise, cutting my size, trying to make sense of it all comprised. Yeah, highs, spinning these skies. I was stuck down, feeling paralyzed, but I'm up now. We all too late to fall. The only one coming, I'ma lift them all. Never look down when this risk involved. They got guts, gotta learn, gotta wish it all. Ain't got no feelings, we just floating. Yeah, I'm that grain of sand that made it out the ocean. A couple milli now, I'm causing a commotion. I've been coasting, hear my name all around the world like an explosion.
Rise up. Rise up.
This was probably the same for the first 3 weeks. I was feeling really good, making a lot of progress. In fact, I thought I might even be able to get this done before Christmas. 2 of my friends, they were like, you know what, Sarah, if you don't get this V7 by the end of the year, we'll jump in and do the polar plunge with you. I can't explain to you how much that meant to me. Things are going really, really well. That is until week 4. Week 4, I think, is when things started to go downhill. I was feeling weak. My fingers were feeling a little tweaky, so I wasn't trying as hard because I didn't want to get injured.
I would have hurt my hands, hon. I love your enthusiasm.
So I went easy on my left hand. My core workouts started to feel impossible, and I started skipping days where I wasn't doing the core workout every day. And the project's progress was halted. The crux of the climb seemed too hard. So I was really frustrated. Not only was I not able to get progress on the route, but parts of the climb that I had gotten really good at, I couldn't do anymore. I kept failing, to the point where I didn't even remember what it felt like to hit that move. It wasn't until I started looking at videos from previous sessions that I realized I've done that move before. I'm just not doing it now. What's going on? I started feeling pretty crappy about this, and I knew at that point I made a mistake. Who am I to decide that I could do a whole grade higher than I ever had in 2 months? Like it was so arrogant. Holidays were coming up. I wanted to spend time with family, but at the same time, I couldn't spend time with them without stressing about my project. My training days where I wasn't supposed to do the projecting turned into project days. Every single time I went to the climbing gym when I was there, I touched my project. I got on it. I had to try it at least one more time. I'd film it. Look at what did I do wrong? What do I need to do? Tried every single thing that I could possibly think of. I fell. And then I fell. And then I fell, and I fell, and I fell. I fell so much that I was getting sick and tired of videoing myself falling because I had gotten to the point where I thought, I am teaching myself to fall. I'm not teaching myself how to get to the next move. I am failing. I'm teaching myself to fail, is what it felt like. It was hard. I was pissed. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. I was really frustrated with myself. Now I'm failing at this climb. I was not only bringing myself down, I was bringing 3 other people who had to do the polar plunge with me. And there were so many times I ended the session with me falling. I just wanted to message them and be like, well, guys, let's just do the polar plunge now. Like, there's no point in continuing this. This is stupid. I'm not getting any progress. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm done. I think the only one that knew how frustrated I was with myself was Meg. Meg was actually there with me.
You got this. Press into those feet. Keep your core tight. Core tight. You got it. Come on. Come on. Watch the thumb. Watch the thumb. Oh!
Well, Meg went down to visit my family to help out with some things that were going on down there. And I told her, I was like, I can't come down. I have to be here at the gym so I can train and finish this. My mind game is just crap at this point. I have no sense of actually being able to accomplish my goal. At this point, I feel like I'm a dead horse and I'm just beating myself. I realized I needed to mix things up. I'm going to do a climbing session where I don't even go to that climbing gym, because if I go to that climbing gym, I'm going to try the route. There was no pressure. I just need to mix things up. That way, when I go back to my V7 at the other gym, I'll have a fresh head. So I get to the gym and I see this route. So the holds were less than a finger pad. They focused on 2 things, grip strength and core tension, both of which I had been training significantly over the last few weeks. I couldn't do the first move, but I was like, you know, I'll just try the other moves. They look pretty decent. And I pieced together the entire route except for the first move. I started working on the first move. Now let me explain, I actually think the first move is the crux because my butt is on the ground. So while you're on these little tiny holds that are less than a finger pad's width, you have to pull your body up, fully lock off to be able to extend and get to the next hold. And within a few tries, I got the first move. Once I made that move, I just decided, I was like, you know what? Let's just see if I can finish the route from here. And I did. I finished the V7. I was so excited. I immediately texted Meg and I was like, Meg, I finished the route. And then I called her and it went to voicemail, so I hung up. And then I texted Tosh and I was like, Tosh, I finished the V7. And Tosh called me. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you climbed the V7. It felt so good. I wasn't gonna have to do the polar plunge. She didn't have to do the polar plunge. I had accomplished my year-long goal. Tosh made the comment, she's like, wow, you moved through that so smoothly. It almost looks like a V2. And I was like, I plan on sharing this on YouTube, and you're right, it looks like a V2. I am going to get so much crap about this being the easiest V7 in the world. So pressure is off. That being said, I decided to keep with it. I wasn't as strict with my training regimen. I was more relaxed with my tries. I was softer. And then finally, it happened. They reset my route. I no longer had the option to keep trying this climb. Part of me wishes, because I had put so much effort into that route, part of me wishes that they had kept the route up. I think honestly though, I think there's more relief in the feeling than grief, because I fell a lot. I have at least 100 videos of me falling at that exact same move. After December 31st, I decided to take not a break from climbing, but I went climbing once a week. I needed some time to recover. I think more mentally I needed to recover than I did physically. I think that I had drained my excitement about climbing, and I had drained my enthusiasm to get better at climbing by trying so hard and by putting the stakes so high. If you struggle to stay enthusiastic about your project, I actually don't think you should do fear as it, because that just doubles the frustration that I wasn't getting the route, and dread at the same time of having to do this polar plunge. Also, since then I've gotten injured, so I feel like I've degressed a lot in my climbing, but that's just part of the path. That's just part of how things work. I was considering doing another goal this year where I do my first V8, but I decided instead, let's do outdoors. Let's focus on some grades outdoors. Let's do V0 through V7 is my goal for 2022. I'm really excited about this because the routes will never go away. So I can start practicing a route today, and as long as someone's not stupid and breaks the holds, I can come back and try those routes again. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please share a comment below what you liked about it. And I've never made this before, but I would like to do more like this. So if you like it, please do share in the comments below. That way I know. And then share it with your friends who may also be trying a route that's just giving them grief. I know what it's like to feel like things suck. And sometimes things do, but sometimes they turn around, and hopefully they'll start turning around for you and your friends soon.